Welcome, folks, for part 42 of 5,000 Years of War. I'm the Archivist, and I start off with a special focus on Antiquity's elite soldiers. Every epoch has had its top-notch troops, exceptionally trained, toughened, and well-equipped warriors able to change the course of almost any battle in small units or in entire armies. Here are some of these. The Sherdans of Asia Minor, ferocious pirates originally, were used by pharaohs of Egypt from Ramesses II on as a personal on-foot guard, represented with a disc between the horns of their helmet, perhaps equipped with double-edged swords, a shield, and carrying some sort of lamellar cuirass. Late testimonies describe them as mounted javeliners. Then there was the Persian immortals, protectors of Achaemenid kings, called Melophores by the Greeks, apple bearers after the sphere at the base of their spear. They held their own while the empire expanded over a big part of Asia and through Egypt, but their spear and bow combination was of little effect against the Greek hoplites, the immortals notably lacking protection. Note that they were recreated as a unit of cavalry by the Abbasids after the start of the Middle Ages. So it truly was among the Greeks that the best warriors of antiquity were to be found. The Spartans. There's a possible bust of King Leonidas I wearing a Corinthian helmet. The Omoi, equals inspected at birth, were in Lacedaemonia, or Sparta, the citizen warrior, left on its own at age 7 to toughen through the process of the agoge, then trained to arms at 14 by an adult Omoi, with which homosexual relations were encouraged, as it was believed that close friends or lovers would fight better under the watching eye of one another. The young Omoi were underfed, forced to steal to survive, and reaching the age of 20, the test of the Cryptea set some of them against the wild and tasked with the murder of helots, the slaves of Lacedaemonia. In case of success, the ordeal could have granted the elite status of hippies, a force of 300 above all peers Spartans. Spartans were mobilizable for war until they reached 60. The women of Sparta were also trained, without going through the agoge, to be able to defend the city in case the men failed. Their reputation of most beautiful women of Greece maybe came from their in-shape bodies then, and rumor has it that they often had to drag their husband, too attached to his first lover, to the nuptial bed. Elite detachments existed in other cities, like the Theban Sacred Band, professional troupe paid by the city, and among which homosexual relations were also encouraged, maybe even a norm. Now, Alexander III of Macedon's companions, mounted heteroi and on-foot peseteroi, were the hardened core of his army, the cavalrymen with helmet, cuirass, 4.5-meter long lance, and coppice, coming from the Macedonian nobility. They were divided into 8 squadrons, 12 of late. Next on the line, the Samnite Linen Legion, ephemeral and less known, and, on the contrary, the famous West European Celtic warriors. They, with the Germans, true, that struck terror into the hearts of the Romans. Trained as children, ferocious or even enraged during the battle, they actually weren't so hot-headed, being the first to wear mail in combat. Many of their tribes were employed as mercenaries, which shows their recognized valor, and some, like the Germans, were skilled riders, even chosen as bodyguards by several Roman emperors. The Praetorian Guard, right on cue, was at times of top quality, but could lose its edge, kept away from the battlefields, losing on several occasions against the regular veteran legions. This is it for Antiquity's elite soldiers. Don't hesitate to ask any questions you'd have, to make any remark, or share any knowledge you'd have about this. Oh, and like and subscribe if you like the content, of course. Back to our chronology, 382 BC. In Greece, Sparta is still on top of things for now, but that's not easy for it. Spartans, led by Phoebidas, marching towards Chalcidice, stop at Thebes, occupying its citadel, the Acropolis called Cadmea. Theban polemarch Leontiades actually facilitates their entry as he has some political opponents in the city. But Sparta indeed also brings its support this year to Macedon and a few other cities which asked for help against the Chalcidian League. The same year, westward, Rome's enemies, the Volsci and the Ladins of Praenesta or Palestrina, retake Satricum. In 381 now, in Cyprus. At the naval battle of Kition, Evagoras I of Salamis loses control of Kition next to Salamis in the southeastern part of Cyprus. He lost control of it to the Persians that are led by satraps Tiribazus and Orontes I. By a treaty signed soon after, Evagoras only keeps control of Salamis, where he is shortly besieged after Kition. He'll end up assassinated in 374, and this rider's statuette was made in Cyprus around that time. Still in 381, the Lacedaemonian or Spartan operations against the Chalcidian League, led by Olenth, take a bad start as they aim at supporting local Akantos and Apollonia. The Spartan leader of the expedition, Teleutias, the brother of King Agesilaus II, is killed. 380. Fightings at Velitrae between Rome and its allied opponents and possible Roman victory. Oh, and what's happening in India while this time? Well, Persia's grasp over Gandhara in the northwest starts weakening. Several kinglets therefore appear in the area. Continuing this exotic tour, in Egypt, Pharaoh of only a year, Nepherites II, briefly then sees his land fall into anarchy, recent revolts leading to its fracturing. So one of his generals, Nectanebo, overthrows Nepherites and founds the 30th dynasty. Back to very familiar matters, the Adyad king of Sparta, Agesipolis I, retakes command of the operations in Chalcidice, accompanied by at least 30 Spartans and 3 men of Lacedaemonia, the Perikoi. But after a few successes, notably the taking of Toroni, he falls ill and dies. Well. While this time, the Persian satrap of Lycia, Artumpara, is ousted of the region by Pericles of Limyra, city in the south of this coastal and mountainous region, after a brief combat near Xanthos, city on the river today called Kosasei. Pericles makes himself king of Lycia, where he besieges Telmessos, city prey to inner disorders since several decades ago at length. 379 BC, where things will start moving for Sparta, and not in a good way for it, let me tell you. First, the Romans launch a second campaign against Palestrina, or Praenesta, tamed this time, or so it seems. Second, Dionysius, the elder, powerful tyrant of Syracuse on the eastern coast of Sicily, seizes Crotone in Italy, while Hipponium, which he destroyed a few years prior, is rebuilt by the Carthaginians, whom will lose it to the Britons or Brudi from Calabria today in 23 years. Third, Jason, successor of Lycophron as tyrant of Pherae in Thessalia, supports the taking over of tyrant Neogenes at Hestiae in Euboea, this long island, although he won't maintain himself there for long. On his own side, Jason, thanks to a 6,000-strong mercenary army, will in the upcoming years assert his control of most of Thessalia and also of a part of Epirus westward. Fourth, Olynthus, finally dominated by Sparta's forces, renounces to its Chalcidian League and submits. Amyntas of Macedon therefore also wins his conflict, started about 10 years ago, against the League. Fifth, lastly, and most importantly, in the winter leading to 378 BC, I'm a little late on screen, an uprising in Thebes, led by Pelopidas and Epaminondas, expels the Spartans from the city. One of the three Harmosts, Lacedaemonian military governors of the place, was absent, and the two others are sentenced to death in Sparta. Before 375, the Boeotian League is restored, with 4 Thebans among its 7 Boeotarchs, military commanders. It seems that both in the Peloponnesian and Boeotian League, there and there, a division of an army was called a meros. And then, in 378, made violently excited by the Thebans, the Lacedaemonian Harmost of Thespiae, still in Boeotia, Sphodrias, tries to go raid the lands of the Attic region of Athens up until the Piraeus harbor of Athens, but he's in fact stopped as soon as the environs of Eleusis north of Athens, and he only manages to pillage this Thracian plain. This, of course, pours oil on the flame between Sparta and Athens, the latter, between this year and the next, reforming a league with Mytilene of the island of Lesbos, Chios, and Byzantium, and the Chalcidians of Thrace, later towards 375. And for 377, we have an expedition of Agesilaus II, the Eurypontid king of Sparta, to plunder the lands of Boeotia near Thebes. It allows us to make a small intermezzo before the last dramatic years of this video, with this citation of a discourse made by Agesilaus to his Peloponnesian allies that were complaining that they always had to provide the vast major part of every expedition led by Lacedaemonia. Accordingly, they said they had no wish to be dragged hither and thither to destruction every year, they themselves so many, and the Lacedaemonians, with whom they followed, so few. It was at this time, we are told, that Agesilaus, wishing to refute their argument from numbers, devised the following scheme. He ordered all the allies to sit down by themselves promiscuously, the Lacedaemonians apart by themselves. Then his herald called upon the potters to stand up, and after them the smiths, next the carpenters in their turn, and the builders, and so on through all the handicrafts. In response, almost all the allies rose up, but not a man of the Lacedaemonians, for they were forbidden to learn or practice a manual art. Then Agesilaus said with a laugh, "You see, oh man, how many more soldiers than you we are sending out." This scene from Plutarch has of course been reused in the movie 300 with a different Spartan king. Let's roll down to 371, starting with 376. Here, possible aid from Cotys I of Thrace to Hales, leader of the Triballi, against the city of Abdera on the southern coast of Thrace. Abdera is only saved from the destruction by the intervention of the Athenian Chabrias, who negotiates a peace between Hales and his enemies. and Athens, on its side, launches new hostilities against Sparta with the support of Thebes, of course, strong of 10,000 hoplites and 2,000 cavalrymen. They together kick Spartan contingents out of their near regions. Also, 60 Lacedaemonian triremes led by Polis are defeated by these of Athenian Cabrias at Naxos Island at the heart of the Aegean Sea, of which you see the ruins of a temple right here. Magnificent. 375. Halis the Tribali now opposes Cotys I, who crushes the opposition to Note. Halis dies within the year, maybe in combat then. Southwest of there, Jason, tyrant of Pherae in Thessalia, is confirmed as dominant in this region as Sparta has refused to assist Polixedamas of Pharsalus against him. Polixedamas has no choice but to submit, and the following year Jason will take the head of the Thessalian League as its Stagus, commander of up to 20,000 infantrymen divided in hecontarchies of 96 warriors, half hoplites, half light infantry it seems, and 8,000 horses divided in units of 76. Jason will ally with Amyntas III of Macedon and Thebes against Sparta. And this one is in serious trouble now, as near Orchomenes of Boeotia, Theban strategos Pelopidas beats Spartans at the Battle of Tegira. Moreover, Epaminondas, other strategos of Thebes, has just added an elite battalion of 300 men, the Sacred Band, to its city's army. In the Sacred Band, homosexual relations are encouraged to reinforce the cohesion of the group. The Theban cavalry supports all this with efficacy, along with light Hamipes infantry, trained to follow the riders. And around here, Persian King Artaxerxes II presides over a new peace between Greeks, in which Athens is better positioned in comparison to Sparta. But you guess that the Theban army will not sit idle, right? Before moving on to next year's affairs, let's just mention the conquest in China of the minor state of Zheng by Han, west of the central plain of the country in this period of the warring states. 374. New clashes between the Caducii and the Persian Empire, right here, once more, not for long. Datames, a Persian already known for his deeds against the first two Cadousian revolts and then bodyguard of Artaxerxes, receives the satrapy of Cilicia, here, and after bringing two other agitated satraps back into the fold, again earning Cappadocia as a reward, he's sent to quell an Egyptian uprising, maybe as soon as this year. And in 373, Plataea in Boeotia is destroyed by the Thebans barely a year after its Spartan garrison's departure following the peace between Greeks. And Sparta fails in an expedition against the island of Corcyra, despite a good start and partly because of a bad disciplining of 1,500 mercenaries by Spartan navarch Mnasippus, who's killed. Most of the cities allied with Lacedaemonia had preferred to give funds for this campaign rather than sending warriors or ships. And this failed expedition is already a violation of the peace barely started between Sparta and Athens. Another will come in 371. Before that, in 372, Bardidis I of Illyria, attacking Macedon, already launching raids since before, during the war between Macedon and the Chalcidian League, manages to force Amyntas III, the Macedonian, to pay him an annual tribute in exchange for peace. And the last year of this video, with the decisive battle between Sparta and Thebes. First, a few Boeotian triremes are captured by the Lacedaemonians of Cleombrotus II, this one attacking the Boeotian League that he once dissolved. But then, the Battle of Leuctra is fought just southwest of Thebes in this sector on the 6th of July. There, the Thebans of Epaminondas positioned themselves facing southwest, north of Leuctra, to stop the advancing troops of Cleombrotus II, Agiad king of Sparta. Epaminondas has reinforced the left of his 6,000 hoplites by augmenting its number of ranks to 48 with the Sacred Band, so that this side can nullify the Spartan strong side's advance. And when the battle engages after a skirmisher's encounter to the advantage of the Thebans and another of cavalrymen to that of Lacedaemonia, both on the right of the Thebans and their allies, this oblique order pays off big time. The 11,000 Lacedaemonians, many of them mercenaries reinforcing for Spartan morae, break on their supposedly strong side, the right flank, where they only have 12 ranks to oppose the Boeotians' 48. Up to 2,000 Lacedaemonians, including 400 of the 700 Spartans engaged, are out of the fight. Cleombrotus II himself, on his right wing, is killed. After this crushing defeat, Archidamos, son of the Eurypontid king of Sparta, Agesilaus II, comes with a rescue army, but backs off when a force led by Jason of Pherae approaches. Thebes is now the dominant power in Greece. The Spartans got seriously hit right on their head. And to finish off, returning home, the army of Jason of Pherae ravages Iampolis in Phocis and destroys the fortifications of Heraclea, Trachinia, Spartan colony west of the Thermopylae. But Jason will be assassinated the following year by Thessalian nobles, probably supported by Thebes, his growing power annoying them. The Archivist, signing out for today. Next week, we'll see how Thebes handles its hegemony over Greece. Thanks for your fidelity and support to this 100% human-made channel. See you all next week.